Get Up, and again, the breaking news. About an hour before we came on the air this morning, Todd Archer, who covers the Cowboys for us at ESPN, reporting that Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys have worked out the terms on a 6-year, $90 million extension that will make him the highest paid running back in the history of the league. And that got us thinking about Saquon Barkley. Barkley, arguably the only running back in the sport better than Zeke, and he's younger. He's played just 1 year. He has, you see on your screen there, he has 3 years remaining, but there is also that 5th-year option that all these first-round rookies have, which obviously the Cowboys as a team, the Giants as a team option would want to pick up. So I want to do some time topics here. Give me 90 seconds on the clock. Anik, I'm coming to you first. If you were advising Saquon Barkley on how to handle the next few years of his life, what would you tell him?
Well, he has to make it to that 3rd season, and I think at that point he needs to pull the same thing Ezekiel Elliott does if the Giants do not come to him.
To be clear,
that.
3rd season or 4th? Zeke's going into his 4th.
Right, going into his 4th, finishing his 3rd. If he doesn't have a deal after his 3rd season, he needs to hold out and do what Zeke does. And up until that point, I said earlier in the show that I don't think the Giants are a legitimate contender. Up until that point, I think that it would be in the Giants' best interest, as well as Saquon's best interest, for them to pace him and to do a little bit of load management. You don't want to waste all those carries on a team that's not a real contender.
Don, we're talking about rarefied air.
Right.
Todd Gurley went early. Zeke Elliott went early. Barkley certainly could go early, but Melvin Gordon is the flip side of those 3 guys. He rolled the dice and he lost.
But if you're the Giants right now, how are you viewing your plans as far as Saquon is concerned?
100%. My offense runs through Saquon Barkley. We're going to transition from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones, and I think the offensive line, Dave Gettleman, has done a good job of fortifying that. I think this offense will look similar to Dallas, where it goes through Barkley, and now we can transition to Daniel Jones.
Pardon me. Jeremy, are we living in a new reality now with Zeke getting this money and everything else as far as running backs?
I think $15 million is that sweet spot. I don't know if it's going to go much crazier than that outside of Saquon. Like you said, he is an outlier here because of his immense talent. But it's still a vertical passing game right now. So I don't think running backs are going to make some sort of resurgence where you're getting $100 million contracts.
To be clear, there's no option for him to hold out any sooner than you're talking about. But others might actually almost be thinking that. And I think no one gave it up for me. I've got to sneeze in and out of that pretty quickly there. Okay.
I didn't even notice it.
Let's go to the quarterback. Well done. The Rams come to terms yesterday with quarterback Jared Goff. 4 years, $134 million on the extension. It includes an NFL record $110 million guaranteed. Goff is entering the 4th season of his 5-year rookie deal, so this extension will keep him in LA through the 2024 season. So he was basically in the same spot. He wasn't holding out or anything, and the Rams make him the highest paid player ever. 90 seconds on the clock. Is Jared Goff worth the money?
Absolutely. He took his team to a Super Bowl, and we can parse who gets most of the credit and who gets any blame that they deserve. But the fact of the matter is, this unit went to the Super Bowl, and the leader of that unit, ostensibly the leader of that unit, the quarterback, was leading that unit and playing quite well. He gets paid.
Here's a separate question, though. I mean, it's all part of the same question. Mike Tannenbaum, if every quarterback in the National Football League became a free agent, would Jared Goff be among the first half taken? Would he be among the first 16 quarterbacks taken?
Probably right around 16, but the agent of the day, Greeny, isn't Rocky Arsenault. It's Sean McVay. Jared Goff, you mentioned earlier, he was going to be a bust. He started off 0-7. He's 24-7 under Sean McVay. To use Dom words, you can't disentangle those two. It's working, it's winning, he can't leave, and that's the price you have to pay.
So what does this mean for the quarterback, Mark? What does this mean?
Well, because this isn't a Trent Dilfer situation or just some guy leading, not to disparage Trent Dilfer, but,
But okay.
Well, but it's not like a guy who's handing the ball off and making a few throws. This guy makes some high-level throws here, so he might not be top 10, but he's somewhere in that probably 10 to 15 range. And look, the market says he's worth that right now.
I agree, and I started by saying he should get paid, but I have to be honest. I was surprised that he was getting the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Like yesterday, none of us would have thought that. We all would have thought that they would have been able to pay him a little cheaper, especially since they're doing it early.
But to Greeny's point, even he's somewhere in the middle. Look what Kirk Cousins did. Could you imagine what
But Kirk Cousins was a full free agent. He was an unrestricted free agent. That's different.
Oh, okay, and I want to talk more about the money for the quarterbacks. And to set it up, I want you, Jeremy Fowler, our NFL insider, to explain something you sent me in a note yesterday.
Okay, so the NFL and the NFLPA have been talking about the next CBA, and in those talks, an idea has been floated about quarterback money and whether they should separate it essentially as a separate entity from the salary cap, and that would give teams a little more wiggle room to massage the cap, and so you can try to retain more stars because the money's gotten so crazy. But it's convoluted from what I'm told, and it's not, it's hardly a slam dunk, but it is on the table.
So I'm gonna sort of compare that to the bird rights or bird exemption, perhaps, that we know from the NBA. So give me 90 seconds on the clock. I'm turning to Tannenbaum first on this. What do you think of that idea?
Well, from a fan sport, I love it. From running a team, I love it just from a standpoint. It takes the pressure off that Drew Brees, Tom Brady, we parked their money on the side. Now let's go put the best team together we can. I would be surprised if the owners agreed from it from this standpoint. Over the last 20 years, and Dom, you know this,
right,
we want cost certainty.
Yeah.
So we want to know whatever the number is, we're going to plan our businesses around it. And I know philosophically they feel like, Greeny, if you have one exception, now you have 10 exceptions, and that's going to be a concern that they've always had.
Yeah, this leaves me with another question, because this was something that we talked about on the player side earlier. So who's talking about it now? Who's putting this on the table now? Because I would guess it was the players, right?
I actually heard it was the NFL.
Right, yeah, I thought that's what you said earlier to me, and that blew my mind because
a player rep told me that.
Why did the players,
voted.
Dominic, you were the president of the NFLPA. Why did the players bring this up?
So it never made it into any of our proposals, but it's something we discussed, because if you take that out of the cap, that leaves more money for the rest of us. And I agree, the quarterback position is different. They should get paid differently. So I'm completely on board with any player being uncapped, in particular the quarterbacks.
Greedy, from a standpoint, from a player standpoint, the more exceptions, it just allows for more money to flow through the system. And the one thing the NFL owners have done a great job over 20 plus years is it is a hard cap at the end of the day, and they have fixed costs, which is really important to them.
Right. Listen, I've always said in sports, I never liked the idea that the best players are limited in what they can make artificially by what everyone else is making. I've said that about basketball, and I'll say it here with regard to the quarterbacks. If they're just that valuable, then they should be paid what it is they are worth. We should not be celebrating, oh, look, Tom Brady took less money than he is worth, so other guys can get paid. Let me get a quarterback in on this conversation. Dan Orlovsky, I look at the smile on his face, like the cat that ate the canary. What are you thinking?
Y'all think quarterbacks get paid a lot now? Wait till if this actually becomes part of the negotiation or the CBA. What would be the cap? How do teams handle it? Is it just for the quarterback position, or is it strictly for the starting quarterback? If it is for the quarterback position, I'm thinking about going back and playing like McCown. No, I would say I understand it and I like it, but I also think it puts some teams at a disadvantage. And Mike Tannenbaum, you might know this better than I, but I think the teams that decide to pay their quarterbacks, if you're a good general manager, you have a distinct advantage, because if you draft well, it doesn't necessarily matter how much you're paying your quarterback, because you'll continue to refurbish your football team or replenish your football team with really good drafted talent. And I think that gives teams that have good general managers a really big advantage in comparison to other teams, because once you pay the quarterback, we all know there's less money to go around. But then you have to be a really good drafter of talent and evaluator of talent in football players to continue to keep your team healthy. That's a big reason why the Eagles have had their success, and a reason why the Saints have had success in a team like the Cowboys. They've actually drafted really well over the past couple of years, and that's why they can put a ton of money elsewhere.
Tannenbaum, final thought.
Yeah, I think Dan's exactly right. And to Dallas's credit, they acquired all these good players, and I think their plan moving it forward, Byron Jones may be the player that's going to be outside looking in, and don't be surprised, Dom, maybe you'll make a comeback as a corner, but their starting corner next year will be in next year's draft. But to Dan's point, procuring talent, young, inexpensive talent is the only way to go.
Because Dak Prescott is probably the next one to get paid. Orlovsky, thank you. We invite you to join us every morning here. Get up with us every morning. Tomorrow on Get Up, we will be live at Cowboys camp with a report on Zeke Elliott's first day of practice. We'll have much more on it as we continue, and much more coming on First Take as well. Stay with us. Busy morning on ESPN.